morning, good afternoon, my fellow CX leaders and innovators. Welcome to another session of the CX Chat Show. Today, we have Binzad Aliyar, AVP Sales for Middle East and Asia at AMEYO. Currently, Binzad takes complete responsibility for sales operations for the Middle East market as well as for the emerging markets in Asia. Close to 18 years of sales function responsibility with 15 years in similar customer experience and contact center domain. Binzad, it's an absolute pleasure to have you today as our guest at the CX Chat Show. Welcome to the event.
Thank you, Sarfraz. Pleasure is all mine. Thanks for the invite.
Fantastic. Binzad, you've been completely driving business sales operations for AMEYO for the Middle East and for the Asian market. Why don't you give a quick heads up about what AMEYO is to our audience? I know AMEYO has spread out its wings in Middle East and Africa as well as in the Asian market, but just why not hear from you about AMEYO?
Sure. Look at AMEYO is in the customer experience domain. For more than 15 years. We've been operating in 60 plus countries, primarily in the Asia Pacific, Middle East, Africa region. We are venturing into US and Europe as well. So that's our presence globally. And if you look at, we have a diverse customer base as well. Customers in various verticals, right from banking, financial segments to telecom operators to retails. So most of the new age entrepreneur-led organizations like the food deliveries, the cab operations. These are some of our new entrants into our customer bases. So even the traditional verticals like automotive, retail. So we have customers across various verticals spread across 60 plus countries and concentrating on delivering customer experience to these end customers.
Fantastic. Thanks for that quick intro, Binzad. Now, we all have been going through a completely unprecedented times which we have never ever imagined during a lifetime. COVID-19 has completely changed the business dynamics, I would say. I'm sure it's been the case with you as well. From your point, from AMEYO's standpoint, being a leader when it comes to CX, how do you think COVID-19 is changing the CX landscape, Binzad?
So, the change has been everywhere, right? From the way we interact today through the chat show, right? Earlier it was all physical, face-to-face shows in front of audience to virtual shows like this or chat conversations like this, right? We have seen, how the COVID has actually changed the way people operate and behave, right? So, we've, personally, since we operate in different regions, we have seen how the movement of COVID also happened, right? Slowly from east to west, right? From the impact was initially in the Asia side of it, then it moved to Middle East, Europe, West and Africa, right? So since we operate in all these various countries, we had certain observation in, various geographies and people reacted differently, right? And we try to understand how businesses behave during these times. Some of the businesses are doing extremely well, right? If you look at e-commerce, telecom, the need for bandwidth, right? So healthcare, of course, because it's a pandemic, right? Food delivery, these are essentials. Consumer and home appliances side of it, right? These are verticals we have seen huge growth, and we have seen verticals struggling because and impacted because of this, like the airline, travel tourism, hospitality segments. Since we have operations across these verticals and across these geographies, we have seen that ourselves, right? And there are some neutral businesses, right, which are trying to ensure that they are not left behind by trying to implement innovative ways to be relevant in this marketplace, right? So in the space that AMEYO is operating, we have seen change in three segments, right? One is in the customer service side of it, one is in the sales side of it, another one is in the collection side of it, right? A biggest change in all these three segments is that they're seriously looking at optimizing the cost, right? They're looking at going remote, right? In the process, they don't want to compromise on the level of engagement that they're having with the customers, or the quality of engagement that they're having with customers. Rather, they're trying to enhance it. Um, Another serious concern, or the problem that we hear from business leaders, are that the cash flow management, right? It is a concern to them. And in certain businesses, the physical channels of interactions are not available anymore. For example, the branches for businesses, it can be in a financial segments, right? Outlets for the retailers, or even field agents who are doing certain tasks like collections or closure of a sale, right? It was not feasible in certain geographies, and in certain geographies it was restricted, right? So these are some of the major changes that we have seen. And what we felt was, the business that we are in, the contact center, is going to drive these functions. So the role of the contact center is going to be really vital for us.
I mean, that's a very, I would say, deep, insightful, insight you have shared with us. I'm sure it's purely because of the kind of, footprints that AMEYO has been having in from Far East to Middle East to African markets. Now, how the markets have been reacting, and what do you see are the key changes that is been happening due to COVID-19, Binzad?
See, one of the primary challenges or changes that everyone's having is that uh, how to keep their business as usual, right? And with zero or minimum impact. And while doing this, they need to address a few things, right? From IT point of view, the concern is, will the existing technology stack that they're currently having will support the changes that they want to implement? What are the enhancements they need to do that needs to be on the network side of it? What are the enhancements that needs to be done on the security side of it, so that there is absolutely no threat? And from the operations point of view, if you look at it, the agent enablement, the availability of those agents, the effective monitoring and onboarding. I never thought availability of an agent was a concern until recently, when we heard from one of the large BPOs in Saudi Arabia, where they wanted to ensure that the agents get a reminder call, right, half an hour before their shift starts. And if they don't pick up, the second reminder goes around 15 minutes later. And even after that doesn't happen, a supervisor gets a text message and a call saying that this agent is not responding and his shift is starting in 15 minutes, right? When we got a requirement like this, we were surprised that, and they were like close to a 2,000 seater contact center, and they wanted it to be blasted out to all these agents as per integrating with their workforce management, understanding their shift timings and things like that. And we've deployed that for them, and they're saying that agent adherence has improved drastically after that. So these are things that people would not have even thought about when they are on premise, and all that the supervisor had to do is, guys, come back from a smoke break or come back from a coffee break and come sit and start taking calls, right? So these are new things that we are actually seeing. And I'm glad that we were able to actually provide a solution like that. And from employee point of view or an agent point of view, right, collaboration, availability of resources not only in terms of the IT resources, even in terms of the knowledge base availability, in terms of understanding the various new products that the organizations have launched, understanding the new changes in terms of maybe a pricing structure, promotions. So all these things needs to be made available to the agent when they are interacting, so that they have a very meaningful interaction with their end customers. And of course, one of the main things is like keeping the morale high. I know, because I'm having handling a team, I know how it is. At times, even when things are not going right, maybe the targets are met or not met or something like that, you can't react the way you used to react when you are face to face, right? Because they're not seeing you. Those words can sometimes hurt or be harsh. So keeping the employees morale and motivation level at its peak is a very, very critical aspect in such times. There are two other prominent things most of the businesses are looking at in this current situation, right, to tackle these things. One is going remote, whether it is partial or total. So earlier it was when there was lockdown kind of a situation in certain geographies, they were looking at a complete movement remote. But then when things were eased, they were not completely moving premise. They were moving at a more like a partial mode. That is one of the prominent things that we've been seeing. And going cloud. Again, it can be a completely a cloud-based infra or a hybrid model in certain geographies that we are seeing, right? And there has been a great demand in terms of alternate or innovative channels of engagement, right? And while implementing all these, they need to ensure, the biggest challenge is that, the security, monitoring, and the enablement, these things needs to be taken care of. So the changes that the business, if you look, what we see are looking at is digitization, automation, and they need intelligence everywhere, because everybody is remote, right? So intelligence from the network side, intelligence from the agent side in terms of monitoring the devices perspective. They need to take inputs from all these channels and eventually solve the problem that whoever might report, right? Most importantly, strong processes are being made by many of our businesses that we know, that needs to be implemented. And individuals like us are culturally, these things need to be accepted, right? So these are things, Sarfraz, we are seeing in the market.
Very, very interesting insights, Binzad, and especially when you mentioned about, the call center leaders are looking out to check out the availability of agents. No one ever imagined, we would probably land up in that kind of situation. And that's a very, very interesting point that you brought in. And in fact, my next question is aligned towards that. How do you think the contact center workforce is impacted by this pandemic, Binzad?
Right. As I mentioned, for the workforce, it's about having the resources which is required to have effective communication to their, with their end customers. That is very critical. I mentioned that as well in terms of having their morale high, right? And in terms of operations, onboarding is again something that is something that everybody is looking at in terms of there are certain businesses which definitely needs more resources to take care of such situations, right? So onboarding needs to be done as per the industry standard or their internal procedures. These are something that they are really working on. Employees, yes, one is in terms of availability of all their required resources, which needs to be made from the IT point of view, from the operations point of view, so that everyone might have probably a laptop, or if they're not able to get a laptop, if they're using application like ours on their mobile phones to take calls, or have any kind of interaction with their customers, with reasonably good network access, from the IT side of it, and all the relevant information about new information about their organizational changes, the product information needs to be made available to the agents so that they have a very, very meaningful and successful communication or interaction with their customers.
Probably, I think what I would maybe make out from this is the need of a very good networking technology and trusted partners would probably be the most key for remote workforce, or be it a remote contact center operations. Binod. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Yes, you're right. One is the availability for the for the agents in terms of resources, IT, as well as in terms of the information.
Awesome. Now, my next question, earlier we were talking about, organizations are looking, or I would say spearheading their digital transformation, or their, what would have taken 6 years in terms of digital transformation or digitization. We have seen, we have witnessed organization really rapidly, adopting that path. They have been really, getting into the RPA path or automation, or, using AI technologies and so on and so forth. Now, my next question is, what solutions businesses are looking for to address challenge with remote workforce and remote operations with that?
Yeah, you rightly said, every business needs to adapt certain changes during this time, right? So I personally believe in 3 A's, right, which is adopt, adapt, and accept, right? You cannot change certain things, so you better accept it. I would like to give you a instance. Recently, a couple of days back, one of the new movies released in one of the online streaming platforms. Now that is a trend, right? There is no movie halls or anywhere to go and watch. So I happened to watch this movie, and there is no glamour in that, right? It is not a cast-centric movie. It is more screens, more video calls, more chat messages, right? These are the things that are dominating the movie rather than the glamour in a regular movie, right? So I could relate it and enjoy it so much. And they have shot it during this complete COVID times indoor, right? Just like two people having a video call and video conversation and chat messaging, right? Maybe it was such a fantastic art, right? If not for this time, we would not have probably enjoyed it, or probably even accepted or understood those kind of movies, right? So similarly, we've been talking about omni-channel, digital channels, alternate channels for quite some time now, right? And having customer at the center of interactions, and transactions revolving around them. Customers prefer like context across various channels and consistent experience across various channels. But the reality is, earlier the adoption of it was moderate, and even if we've seen businesses adopt that, but it has all been in silos, right? So voice has always been the dominating and the comforting channel of communication between businesses and the users. So now businesses are looking at maximizing the agent utilization, right? So they want to have alternate digital channels like chat, and chat is now an accepted medium of communication thanks to the millennials who are using it very widely, right? So not just on the traditional web chat mode, people are trying to communicate with businesses through Facebook Messenger, Twitter DM, and even publicly available apps like a WhatsApp or a Viber or even an Instagram, right? So we've seen a huge change in this way. See, voice, if you look at it, is a real-time communication. That means that if you and me are going to talk to each other, a third person who's not relevant to this conversation cannot come into this conversation, right? So he has to wait till his turn. Whereas when it comes to chat, the agent utilization can be enhanced. That means that when you and me are chatting, you can chat with maybe two or three other people, right? Which the millionaires are very good at it right now. So there is definitely an increase in adoption and increase in utilization of these digital channels. So it is actually helping the businesses also to take care of this customer interactions. So if they were able to address, say, practically a 50 calls in a day for 50 customers by one agent, the same agent can actually handle up to 150 to 200 conversation over chat and solve their problems, address their issue. So these are the biggest changes that we are actually seeing, and the adoption of these channels, these digital channels, are actually going high. And we've been hearing that there's a lot of demand to it, and we've personally experienced it as well.
Okay. So I would probably, sum it up saying that there has been an increase in adoption of digital channels, like various, new ones, like be it the WhatsApps or be it the Instagrams and stuff like that. There's been an increase in adoption, which is, I would say, a good transition, which might would have taken few years to reach where we are, but then thanks to COVID, we have started adopting much rather quickly or sooner. Now, before we end this conversation, Binzad, what I would also wanted to know or hear is we all hear that AI-based solutions adoption is on the rise, or it's probably on the uptake. Now, what are your comments, and where do you see the way forward when it comes to AI-based technologies or solutions, Binzad?
See, I have two point of view. One is how market is going to, so probably I'll tell you both. One is how market is actually looking at it and what are the adoptions and what the customers are need for. Another is my personal point of view, which is a little more like an extremist point of view. I will tell that as well, right? Today, actually, yeah, the AI is actually reshaping the customer engagement. There is no question about it. We are already seeing that in certain aspects like chatbots or the virtual assistants. We are seeing that there's a lot of emotional intelligence which is actually coming into the contact centers interactions. There's intent detection. They want to know, even when the call comes in, they know that, okay, this customer is called probably to check about this problem which he's already having, right? So the speech analysis part of it, enough to enhance the quality monitoring and things like that. But then I personally have a different point of view. Yes, there will be a certain level of adoption, but then if probably I'll just tell you, there was a survey which was done some time back by Oxford University, which said that 57% of world's jobs are going to be replaced by AI and automation, right? In next 20 years, 47% of US is going to be, people in US are going to be jobless because of the automation. They might find, if the current trend continues, right? But this is applicable more towards industries like manufacturing, healthcare, automotive, in terms of, again, manufacturing, finance, right? Um, my point of view is when you look at it, initially when any automation or any artificial intelligence comes to your view, uh, the change looks, from real to magical, right? Then it becomes a little bit like a maniac, and I feel it becomes toxic at point in time, right? Let me give you an instance. I've been debating about it with certain other panelists also earlier. When Alexander Perks discovered plastic in the 1800s, right? So it's a little extreme example. That's why I said I'm more like an extremist when it comes to AI point of view. See, everyone thought that's the next big invention or discovery after wheels, right? Then came the PVCs, which was like hugely adopted, and the change was like magical from real. People started overusing it. It become maniac. Then now it is abused. It's like a toxic, right? People are looking at how to reduce the usage of plastic and things like that, right? So we just don't want to get there with AI in any of the verticals. Similarly, if you look at it in our space, um, IVR automation or self-service, when it actually came into existence, people thought, wow, IVR can solve a lot of problems in customer service. We don't need agents at all, right?
True.
And then, people started overusing it. And I feel now it is more like an abuse. If you see larger enterprises like telecom or banking verticals, uh, when you call a contact center, you just get lost in their IVR. See, you are like desperately trying to reach out to 0 or 9 so that you hear a human voice, because you want to talk to them, because you know that IVR is not going to solve your problem, right? Now we know customers who are coming back to us saying that keep it simple. We want to talk to the customers and keep the IVR simple so that they reach out to them, right? So there was another survey which was done by this organization called Get Apps, right? They say that 36% of the takers of the survey, the respondents, they would prefer to talk to a human when they call a customer service. Or 79% of the respondents actually mentioned that they would like a human interaction, whether it is a call, whether it's a chat, or via a email, right? So human interactions are here to stay, right? The trick is that to achieve the right balance and automate to an extent, so that the customer gets an experience and avoid any kind of abuse. I can probably give you another instance. Which brand of car do you own? Not the model. Which brand? Is it a Honda or say this thing? Any which brand? Just tell me a brand.
It's a Honda that I own.
Okay, so what if someone from Honda service center calls you and says, "Hey, Sarfraz, we see that there is a possible problem in your braking subsystem. So don't go for long drives. Please come in for a health check." Right? So your vehicle is parked in your backyard, in your garage. Someone from your Honda experience center is actually calling you and saying that Sarfraz, there is a possible problem and you should come in. You're wondering as to how, but then yes, it is possible now, right? Because there are a lot of automation. There is an onboard diagnostics port available which can actually transmit through a Bluetooth, and it can come back to your server, and that server can actually push it to a system like AMEYO for a contact center solution or a customer experience solution, and dial out to the customer and say that out of all your subsystems, this subsystem is likely to fail. When he switches on his ignition, he sees that there's a red light there, right? Which even he is not monitored. Somebody is actually monitoring is from backend. So the right balance between automation and making information available and a human interaction can actually enhance the customer experience to a great level. And we are seeing that now, even with respect to chatbot. You are interacting with the chatbot, uh, and then when the chatbot is not able to answer your questions because it's been trained to answer a certain questions, right? Certain set of questions, there is a
True.
protocol. So if it's not able to do it, there needs to be a seamless transfer to a human agent with the context of the previous interaction with the a chatbot, so that agent knows that, okay, these have been the questions that has been asked and answered, so let me start from where it is stopped. So this kind of a change is what people would appreciate, and this is what I feel would actually take us the distance in by using AI in a customer experience domain. So human touch is definitely going to continue, and here it is. It's here to stay, and brands are realizing this, and they have to, the one which you realize earlier is going to take advantage of the situation.
I think you have beautifully summed it up, Binzad, saying that human touch or the human care is never ever going to be replaced by any AI or any kind of technology. What I would probably want to add upon to it, any new technology, be it AI or a chatbot or I would say any kind of intelligence, is going to be a perfect catalyst to human interaction to deliver superior and excellent, or probably I would say a wow customer experience. And that's how I look forward to it. Binzad, it was absolute pleasure speaking with you, and I'm just waiting to get rid of all these virtual platforms, meet you in person. That is what we look forward to. I'm sure it's been with most of, it's been the same case with most of the people with whom I've been interacting with. We have had this enough of these virtual platforms. It's high time we catch up for a coffee, or maybe we have a conversation over lunch, and then the good old days where meeting people was the norm, and not having through a con call or probably through a video chat. So
This is
I
exactly the balance I'm talking about, right?
exactly. So we both are in the same lines. It's just a matter of time we get back to the old school, or I would say old school with new technologies to support us to be a part of our vision to deliver seamless customer experience. Binzad, once again, thank you for your time. It was an absolute pleasure to have you on our CX Start show, and inshallah, look forward to have you part of our physical events going forward.
Inshallah, take care, stay safe.
Thank you, and you too. Take care. Stay safe.